Notice of a public meeting of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville pursuant to Chapter 551, Title 5 of the Texas Government Code, the Texas Open Meetings Act. Notice is hereby given that the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, in accordance with Article 5, Section 12 of the Charter of said city, will convene a regular meeting on Tuesday, November 7, 2017, at 6 p.m. in the Commission Chambers on the second floor of the Brownsville City Hall, Old Federal Building, located at 1001 East Elizabeth Street, Brownsville, Cameron County, Texas. Next, if everybody could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
And let's pray.
Please remain standing.
Father God, we thank you for your love, your grace, and your mercy in the good times and in the bad times. Lord God, we ask you to bring your healing to Sutherland Springs, Texas. Lord, we know that those whose bodies perished in that church, if they received your payment for their sin on the cross, Lord, if they made you Lord of their lives, that they're with you even now. And Lord, we ask you to bring comfort to their loved ones. It is those that are left behind that grieve. Lord, we ask you to bring healing to those that were wounded. Lord, I ask you to bring this nation together and cause each of us to be able to recognize people who are troubled and not turn our backs on them. Help us to reach out with your love so that they can be reached before anything terrible happens like this. And Lord, we just, again, ask you for your protection, ask you for your love, your grace, and your mercy, and draw all of our hearts to yours in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Next, we have the mayor's activity update.
Quite frankly, I think it was addressed by the Reverend here. We have to be mindful of these tragedies and understand that we still are a human family and need to take care of one another. And so without dwelling upon that, even though it's very, for me, it's a very moving situation with regards to how we take care of our fellow family members. But on the brighter light, I think some of you who were here a couple of weeks ago, I think I said go Astros, and look, Astros won, so congratulations, Houston. Anyway, that's it.
Next, we have commissioner's activity update.
Mayor, if I may, just two things from last weekend on behalf of Commissioner Longoria to all our city staff and to all the veterans who participated in our Veterans Day Parade. I want to thank them for their service and for allowing this nation to remain free and strong. The city and the veterans, thank you on behalf of Commissioner Longoria and the commission. And also, I want to thank BCIC and our sports park team because last week they hosted the FC Toros versus Brasa All-Stars, which is basically a group of all our best kids here. They played a professional team. They're I think, second division, the FC Toros. And even though we lost both games, it creates great enjoyment because we will have these kids now moving up in different divisions. They have the opportunity to participate against professionals, and that's really what we want. We want our youth to be able to strive to be the best in the state. So I want to thank them. I want to thank BCIC. I want to thank Coach Sergio Checo Lozano and for all the great work he does with our kids. So thank you on behalf of the city.
Thank you, Commissioner. Proclamations.
I
Next,
have
we
a
have-
report, sir.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. Well, you may be seeing some Brownsville police officers sporting some beards this month, and it's for a good cause. The Brownsville Police Department is participating in the Testicular Cancer Awareness Challenge during the month of November. Officers will be allowed to grow a beard or goatee for the whole month as a show of support for the cause. This deadly disease mostly affects men between the ages of 15 and 35 and has a 99% cure rate if caught early. In order to participate, officers are donating money that goes towards treatment and research. The police department is inviting the community to join in and consider to donate. If you'd like to help, please go to bpd.com or look them up on Facebook.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. I'm sorry, anybody else? All right, if not proclamations, I think that's you, Commissioner.
Yes, we do. Is somebody going to be coming up, or do we just?
Yeah,
they-
the next proclamation is the Texas Amateur Athletic Foundation Region of the Year Award.
Why don't
We
you all
can
stand
just-
up
we
here
can
first?
stand
He's
up
going to
here
read the
right here.
proclamation. That looks like a lot of good-looking guys here. Girls. Yeah.
Welcome. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Great, well, thank you, congratulations, guys. A proclamation of the City Commission of Brownsville, Texas, recognizing and honoring the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation Region of the Year Award. Whereas the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation is a nonprofit organization established in 1925 to promote, organize, and conduct amateur athletics in the state of Texas. Whereas the City of Brownsville Parks and Recs Department has been a member of TAAF since 1937 and is one of 8 TAAF Region 2 member cities. Whereas the Parks and Recreation Department oversees TAAF registration for Brownsville participants competing in TAF youth volleyball, basketball, track and field, swimming, flag football, and golf, in addition to adult sports, men's flag football, men's and co-ed softball, men's and women's basketball, men's 35 and over basketball, and co-ed volleyball. Whereas in September 2017, Region 2 member cities were awarded TAF's prestigious Region of the Year Award for the first time at the TAF 92nd Annual Conference in Killeen, Texas. Today, the City of Brownsville is the first Region 2 member city to showcase the TAF Regional Championship belt before it makes its way to the cities of Alamo, Edinburgh, Harlingen, McAllen, Mission, Pharr, and San Juan. And whereas Brownsville athletes inspire our community through their dedication, hard work, and commitment to exemplify the true meaning of good sportsmanship. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, Texas, by virtue of the authority vested by the charter of said city, and on behalf of all citizens, do hereby recognize and honor the Texas Amateur Athletic Federation Region of the Year Award, and further call upon the residents of Brownsville to celebrate its athletes and the opportunities provided by the City of Brownsville Parks and Recreation Department, done on this 7th day of November 2017. Congratulations, guys.
Does someone want to respond? Just go up to the, there we go, thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Commissioners, this award was made and came about because of all the hard work, not only from the kids, but all the departments, from BCIC, City of Brownsville. This is a great effort from everyone to make this a reality. It felt really good coming home with this plaque and actually being the first to get the belt. And I mean, I can't say enough about the staff, my director, everyone that's helped. It was a great effort citywide to make this happen, and it feels really good when the city comes together for one common goal and we make it happen. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much for all you do.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
There's my
Congratulations.
There you go, girl.
Congratulations.
You're such a sweetheart.
Congratulations, and thank you for representing our city in the way you do.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for everything you do.
Congratulations.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Good. Thank you. Great teamwork.
Keep rocking it, guys.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. Good job, game. Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.
Okay. Next one.
Next, we have Municipal Courts Week.
The soul and essence of any community is really its employees. Our employees are the ones that do the day-to-day, and they're the ones that interact with our citizens and with the community. So with that, I want to extend a proclamation to our municipal courts, designating November 6th through the 10th as Municipal Courts Week. Whereas the Brownsville Municipal Court, a time-honored and vital part of our local government, has been in existence since December 26 of 1941. Whereas the Brownsville Municipal Court represents the judicial branch of the city of Brownsville, the function of the municipal court is to process and adjudicate cases that are filed, including parking, traffic, city ordinance violations, and Class C misdemeanors. Whereas municipal courts play a significant role in preserving public safety and promoting quality of life in Texas and Brownsville, more people come in contact with municipal courts than all other Texas courts combined, and public impression of the Texas judicial system is largely dependent on the public's experience in our municipal courts. Whereas the procedures for Brownsville Municipal Court operation are set forth in Texas Code of Criminal Procedure and other laws of the state of Texas. Whereas the city of Brownsville is committed to the notion that our legal system is based on the principle that an independent, fair, and competent judiciary will interpret and apply the laws that govern us, and that judges and courts personnel should comply with the law and act in the manner that promotes public confidence in the integrity and impartiality of the judiciary. Now, therefore, we, the members of the City Commission of the City of Brownsville, by virtue and authority vested by a charter of said city, and on behalf of all our citizens, do hereby designate November 6th through the 10th, 2017, as Municipal Courts Week, recognizing the accomplishment of Texas municipal courts and saluting their critical role in preserving public safety, protecting the quality of life in Texas communities, and deterring future criminal behavior. Signed by the Honorable Mayor and the Commission on the 7th day of November 2017. Congratulations to all of you.
You want to say a few words?
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you, Joel.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll have a
Thank
little
you for your
response, but
service.
join your, thank you, guys.
Thank you for
Thank
everything
Thank
you do
you.
for our city.
Nice work.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable
Thank you for
Mayor
everything
and
you do.
Commissioners, thank you very much on behalf of our presiding judge, Robert J. Lerma, all the associate judges, Rene de Cos, Valerie Garcia, Phil Bellamy, and on behalf of all the staff that work there, including myself, Mike Sanchez III, we appreciate your most sincere and gratitude on our proclamation, but most importantly, your support. That is really goes a long way. So we thank you very much for the time and the proclamation of tonight.
Well, thank you for your team. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Next, we have presentations. Employee of the Month, Mr. Joseph J. Muniz, Collection Development Planning Manager.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, the Employee of the Month for November of this year is Mr. Joseph Muniz, who works for the City Library. Mr. Muniz has been working for the city since October 21st of 2016. Even though he's been here for a limited time, he brings to the City Library 20 years of experience. So that means a great deal for us. He's a very motivated individual who takes initiatives to identify issues, find solutions, and implement changes to improve services to our patrons. As an example, Joseph completely reviewed and revised the RFP for library materials, an extremely detailed and technical process outlining all of the specifications for library cataloging and physical processing of materials. This was a major project and was finished in a timely and professional manner. This obviously has improved our library services to our residents. As an Employee of the Month, Mr. Muniz, you get a wristwatch. You also have an engraved flag and lapel pin right there. And you're also getting a day off paid. And you're also eligible to be a candidate for the Employee of the Year. And of course, this will be awarded at our annual banquet, which is next month. you're welcome to say a few words.
Thank you so much. Honorable Mayor, honorable commissioners, thank you very much. I have been here for a short time. I do have over 20 years of experience working in municipal government, other organizations, also through some other service. I've worked with state organizations. One of the things that has impressed me about working for the city of Brownsville is the extraordinary support that this commission and its mayor has shown to the city employees through recognition of awards like this, as well as the other support that you provide with everything that you do, from budgeting to going out and telling people about what a great community Brownsville is. So thank you very much, Mayor, Commissioners.
Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. And Pete was worried that the watch wasn't here when we started out, but the watch showed up, so everything worked out, Pete.
Next, we have Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, the first annual report by Mr. Gilbert Salinas.
Now, how many slides, Mr. Gill?
It's only like 20,
Okay.
maybe a little bit more. Mayor, members of the City Commission, thank you. Madam Chair, Mr. Board Member, and Committee Member, City Commission. Okay, so I'll go through our first official annual report to the city on behalf of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. And before I get into the meat of the actual presentation, just a quick little side story. 2 weeks ago, there was a deadline for the Amazon headquarters number 2. And the reason I bring this up is because not that we put in for it, but the state of economic development in Brownsville, as it pertains to what we're doing right now, has everything to do with what this particular project is looking for. So I'll get into that here in a little bit. So it was an open call for cities in North America to submit a proposal for their second headquarters. This was about a couple of months ago. And the project entails 50,000 new jobs, an 8 million square foot facility, and $5 billion in capital investment. So just to kind of put things in perspective, this is the equivalent of like 8 to 10 Sunrise malls put together, employing about 25% of the city of Brownsville. At the IDC convention in Toronto, which we had actually a board member and a committee member attend with us, it was interesting because that's where you have all the heads of EDOs from the U.S. attending, and they were all a week prior to that particular convention that the actual proposal had been issued already. So they're all stressing out as to what they were going to do. And it's very interesting to kind of hear them out, what they were trying to do. But there was a select few cities that had decided otherwise. This came out on the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago, and they said this particular community, as aspirational and confident that we are, we're not submitting a formal proposal. It's hard to imagine that a forward-thinking company such as Amazon has not already selected its preferred location. Then they said, giving away the farm isn't our style. So it's very interesting that they said that, because that was the 10th largest city in the United States that basically said, thanks, but no thanks. So in Brownsville, we don't have the scale for an Amazon 2. We did have a conversation with our neighboring community, with Harlingen, as far as like, hey, can we pull our resources, so on and so forth, to put something in. And it's interesting because the minimum requirement just to get in, go shopping in the mall per se, was you need at least 1 million people in your metro area. But keep in mind that this proposal was for North America, so we're kind of like, well, we include Matamoros, that'll get us in there. But then we said we don't have what they need or what they want in this case. So, but what it did do, it provided us with a blueprint for attracting forward-thinking companies. That blueprint was the RFP from the governor's office. It was the economic development nerd in me, right? It was packed with criteria, details, and really key indicators from their site selection process. So, but most importantly, it taught us 3 different lessons if you were able to read between the lines. So, I'll circle back to that later in the presentation. Now I'm going to get into what we've been doing with GBIC. GBIC has actually been around since 1992. Since the beginning of time, we have outsourced economic development to my former employer, the Brownsville Economic Development Council. In 2014-15, the City Commission totally revamped the GBIC board. So there's really one board member has been there for almost 2 terms. 2016, which was last year, the GB created a performance and oversight committee to oversee what the deliverables were from the BDC, and in turn, they hired its first executive director, which was me. In 2017, early this year, we officially launched operations at the Young House, which belongs to the city of Brownsville. Since then, we have added some staff, and we created a one-year roadmap to really just build the foundation of this organization. We've been around since '92, but this was the first time that we were actually operating as a business, if I could use that term. We also, the board opted not to renew the contract with the BDC. That was within our parameters. So now moving forward, for at least this first year of operation, we had a three-part mission just to kind of get us through this transition phase. One was importing money through smart economic development, basically money from the outside in. Second one was generating money from within, which is economic gardening, working with our local businesses, and then keeping the money in motion, which is capitalist economic development. We own 2 industrial parks. We might amass some more land in the very near future. What is it that we need to do in order to get that real estate to start making money for our community? So part of our first year roadmap, we set the foundation. This is in phases. We streamlined operations. Where are we? No different than a business. Where are we burning money? And then we started setting ourselves in the right direction. Then we're working on ensuring the functionality of the organization, getting ready to host a board retreat and get into a long-term strategic plan. And then we're in the process of redefining, renaming, and rebranding ourselves because Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation just does not cut it. So we need a new name. And then this is all being done in order to make Brownsville a more competitive city. So right now we're right here. We have already ensured the functionality of the organization. Now we're getting ready to get into a board retreat and into a long-term strategic plan. As you can see, the board has already selected, we have already selected 2 firms to conduct our economic development, the strategic plan. One is Tip Strategies and McDaniel Ecosystems. They're out of Austin. McDaniel, that is Tracy McDaniel. She was a right-hand person for then Governor Rick Perry during the economic boom for the state of Texas as it pertains to economic development. And then the UTRGV School of Business is going to help us with the implementation of the actual plan, which now merits the question, well, why are we all doing this? Why is GBIC now wanting to conduct economic development when there was a BDC, which was my former employer? So in terms of economic development, what we were lacking, and I can say this because I came from there, was precisely that. And despite not having a big picture in mind, we were able to hit on some successes. But let me use these numbers now. In the United States, the majority of communities, 80% of growth in a community comes from local expansion and internal growth. 16% comes from startups and entrepreneurs. And then 4% comes from new businesses and or relocations coming into your community. The reason I bring up the vision is because Brownsville at its time was pouring its resources and its time into that 4% of the total economic development picture while we were ignoring that other 96%. So economic development today has become disruptive. It's no longer a linear path. It's no longer about how much money you can put for these particular projects. And we no longer can work in a cone of silence. This is what economic development looks like today, or is starting to look like today. And going back to those numbers and going back to that vision, this is that 96% that we're referring to. That is cultivating local companies, scaling up companies that have expansion projects, helping them grow roots, providing a pipeline for talent, and then involvement from the community as well. And then this is very interesting because in the last year and a half, almost 2 years, we've gone from, working with companies that, one of the first things that they ask is, well, what kind of real estate do you have? What kind of fund incentives programs do you have? To then it's kind of like, well, what's your human capital like? In the last year to 18 months now, it's all about, and I just work one of these, it's like, so tell me about your climate change plan in your community. It's very interesting what they're asking now. It's all about youth sports. What are you doing to keep a healthy population, our future workforce? What are you doing to keep them healthy? So economic development is changing now. We're transitioning now from economic developers to community builders. And it's very interesting. We're in a phase of transition, not just here in Brownsville, but really nationwide, focusing on these 4 elements and developing that sustainable ecosystem. So now I'm going to switch gears and get into some of the highlights of the GBIC. So when I came on board almost a year ago, went from no phone line, no email, no computer, so on and so forth, going from being fully connected to the world to basically nothing to now this. I mean, we're bursting at the seams with a bunch of work, now continuing economic development, and we're a staff of 3. Our first year deliverables has been a successful transition of duties from the BDC to the GBIC. On the administrative side, now we're at the Young House. Our long-term economic strategic planning efforts are underway. We now have an official title. So in the state of Texas, the governor's office recognizes only 1 economic development group per city. Now that's the GBIC. Having community involvement and now setting up a procedure for incentives and that filter to make sure that everything goes through a proper process. And then that cone of silence again, doing everything with transparency in mind. Here's a list of communities now that we're looking for community involvement. Justin East is part of one of those committees, as well as some of our board members. And again, now we're at a point where we need to make sure that we don't skip a beat. So we have 3 active projects. One is Project Navi 2, which is a local industrial project that's going through an expansion phase. Project Fuel Line, which is working on it's a company that's been around for a few years, but they're going through a major growth spurt. So going back to the 96%, how can we help some of these companies scale up? And then Project America, again, this is at the Port of Brownsville. We're the official EDO of record at the governor's office. If they want to tap into funds through the governor's from the governor's office, they have to go through us now. Now, coming back to that filter, we're implementing a process for incentives, not just for the GBIC, but really for our community. So any entity, company that's looking for funds goes through our office, and we'll conduct internal due diligence on whether it's a company or an agency. We prepare a proposal. That proposal goes to an incentives committee. That incentives committee is appointed by our GBIC board. They review the project, and in turn, they make a recommendation. That recommendation might be no. I mean, it's not going to get to the board. Where it's a yes. If it's a yes, and they say, here's what we think they should be awarded. Then the GBIC board, which is appointed by you all, has final project approval for funding, support, so on and so forth. Then it gets to the actual company, agency, or entity, breaks ground on whether it's a new facility, whatever it is, they start hiring people. But now taking it a step further, this is where you all come in, and something that was lacking in the past is providing quarterly updates to the City Commission as far as what the GBIC is working on, what they're doing. And beyond that, if there are certain projects that are still confidential, we'll bring them to the City Commission in executive session to make sure that there's no surprises at the end. That way you all are there through the entire process of working with a particular project. Now, I'm going to come back to Amazon headquarters number 2. I'll start wrapping up here. So there's 3 lessons here. Lesson number 1 was investing in your backyard. So Amazon is from Seattle. So they outgrew, if you can imagine that, they outgrew Seattle. They weren't about to pack up and leave because that's where they're from. So what they said is like, well, let's go ahead and build a second headquarters, right? Great idea. So it's all about scaling up your local businesses, your local entrepreneurs. You never know when you have that Jeff Bezos, that Michael Dell, that Steve Jobs in your backyard. And they're the ones that are going to create those capital jobs, that capital investment. And the beauty about this is that you don't have to work with them to grow roots. They already have the roots in your community. And then they become your ultimate philanthropists. They're the ones that end up giving back to your community more than you could imagine. Lesson number 2 in this, and this is just coming from the RFP and knowing a little bit about the actual company, is Jeff Bezos is not really making the decision as to where his second headquarters is going to be located. It's his HR department that's going to tell him, this is where we need to be. Amazon selecting a city that has a pool of highly trained, dynamic workers, amenities that attract and retain those employees, and again, a region that has a sustainable ecosystem. So that's the HR department is going to tell them this is your best bet where this company is going to flourish, aside from incentives and all. And that dovetails into creating places and goes back to my term about community builders. Now it's not so much about economic development, so much so as to building a community builders, creating places that foster this dynamic workforce, because they're now moving into places that have, and again, I mean, millennials comes to mind, right? I mean, this is what they want. They want that urban setting, want that craft beer, rich niche restaurants. I know Dr. Gowan's not here because in the proposal they said, does your region, does your community have an established bike infrastructure? Organic stuff, food trucks. I mean, this is what they're looking for now. And that's what I'm talking about when it comes to that vision that now GBIC is working on, that 96%, and that's what it looks like. So now in closing, if I've been up here and kind of gone through the whole gamut, and you still don't believe that this is the way economic development is going and where our community should be going, I mean, it's here. It's here, and now, and in their words, I remember when I was working this particular project with them, they said, a few years ago, they said, you know, you and your community, you all are like the eternal optimists when it comes to this particular project, because this project was in life support a couple of times. But this community, that's when we truly saw it come together to pull through this particular project. So I'm the last person, and this is the last organization for someone to say that it can't be done, because I'm here to say that we've done it already. Mayor, members of the City Commission, Madam Chair, that concludes my annual report to the city.
Well done, Gil. Appreciate
Thank you.
that effort very much. Okay?
I just wanted to thank you for the report and let the public know Commissioner De Leon and myself, former Commissioner Portillo, and the entire GBIC board have worked extremely hard. I have sat there for about 3.5 years. We have worked really hard. It was set up in a certain way that for many, many years left it where the public really didn't have any say into these projects that came around. And I really want to commend the GBIC board that I have worked with. They are an amazing group of people who understand that the future belongs to our citizens, and it is in your hands to decide what direction we go in and who we want to become. And we have restructured the GBIC board by bringing on an executive director for the purpose of holding more accountability for the public. Now you have more input and more say. The GBIC board directly is working to bring transparency and accountability to the public. So in the future, you will be seeing a lot of really, really good things, and it's just a different way of working from what we had before, but all of it was painstakingly done for your future and your children, and I'm very proud to know that my children and my grandchildren will grow up in a Brownsville that is forever better.
I'm sorry.
Bless you. Forever better than what we had, the opportunities that we had will be in great abundance, so.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Anything else? Thank you, Gil. Appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Your consent items, I think you asked me to take out item number G.
5G, yes. Consent agenda items A through I with the removal of 5G as per city staff.
I also have a correction on 5A when you're ready.
5A.
One of the minutes from the October 3rd meeting, just a typo. Item 8, toward the end of the first paragraph, I think where it says dispute, it should be disputed.
Okay, if that be it, then I'll entertain a motion.
I would like the records to reflect that I voted aye on 5A.
I'll still entertain a motion with those conditions. Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Now we have public comment.
Next, we have public comment period. Our first one is Ms. Sherry Craighauser.
Hello, my name is Sherry Krieghauser, and I live at 149 Sacramento, Brownsville, and Red River Bend Resort. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share with you this evening. I am sure, as you're aware, Riverbend is a 55-plus community. Needless to say, we are older than the average neighborhood, so in many ways, most likely to have more medical emergencies than the average neighborhood community. I'd like to share with you a couple of concerns and ask you as commissioners and as the mayor how we at Riverbend might help to resolve what we feel could be life-threatening issues. Just last week, we had an incident where police were unable to find the address. This was a middle-of-the-day incident, and a local resident in his golf cart actually led the officer to the correct street. On Saturday of this last week, a friend suffered a life-threatening medical emergency. Dispatch was called at 8:06 p.m. The 911 caller stated that there was a medical emergency at 400 Missouri River Drive, Riverbend. The caller was transferred to another dispatch operator, at which time she provided the street address and the medical history for the patient. Once the dispatch had this information, they hung up, which seemed odd to me. Fire first responders were the first to arrive at 8:22 p.m. They were met at the gate by another friend who led them straight to the emergency address. He was instructed then by the fire personnel to go back to the gate to meet the ambulance. When the ambulance arrived, they pulled into the service gate, which was locked, of the golf course. My friend frantically waved the ambulance down to the correct entrance and then the correct address. There are many examples that I could provide that clearly state the need for response time improved and improved dispatch and clear understanding of how to get into Riverbend during the evening and night hours, as well as the need to know the location of the streets at Riverbend. Do you as a mayor and commissioners know if there is a response time goal for Brownsville? And if so, what is that goal time?
1 minute.
In closing, we at Riverbend want to help. Is it possible for us to meet with each of the different responder teams? We would be glad to share how to get into the entrance of Riverbend, the proper gate, how to get in it, street locations, and quickest route. There's a group of us that are more than happy to assist in any way that you feel would be helpful. I would also invite you as a mayor and commissioners to look at the operations of your dispatch center, to determine ways to make it more efficient and less cumbersome. Shortening the response time begins with an efficient dispatch center. As the fire arrived at the medical emergency, they were very knowledgeable, efficient, and professional. I'm only here to create awareness and in hopes of creating an improved dispatch, quick access to my home neighborhood, and improved response time for police, fire, and EMS. It's all about the speed at which the emergency teams can arrive. That is what actually saves lives.
And we appreciate it. We're all with you. Mike Lopez and I think your fire chief.
Chief Sheldon is back there. You might
Yeah.
want to chat with him.
Anyway, you all might want to visit with Sherry.
Please.
And again, this is a wonderful team sitting up here that is really looking out for you. So please get together with them and let's see how we can make this better for everybody, okay?
I will certainly do that, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
ma'am.
Next, we have Mr. Erasmo Castro.
My name is Erasmo Castro, Commissioners and Mayor. It's been a couple of weeks since we last saw each other in these chambers. Let's recap the happenings of the day since then. In our previous City Commission meeting, which a commissioner rightfully declared to be a circus, we had a commissioner angrily demand our chief of police to investigate a fellow commissioner for perjury. Another commissioner was told to behave, and I feel our mayor took upon himself powers that should never be yielded by anyone on this commission. To attempt to silence one of our elected commissioners on this commission while representing one of our districts is not only unfortunate, but extremely undemocratic. After this meeting, the same let us use the Brownsville Police Department to go after Commissioner, threatened to sic the same police department after myself for filing what he called a false police report. In reference report, I filed against Audit and Oversight Committee for a walking violation to Opens Meetings Act. 4 commissioners were present a day before meeting in these same chambers where city business was openly discussed before city commissioners meeting. This did not surprise me much, as I had already received word via text message that commissioners were coming after me hard and had big plans coming up for me. I would like to believe that maybe this commissioners meant to say that they were going to take me out for a steak dinner. But because of the context of the days, we all know that what was meant. Our stance against Brownsville City Commissioner De Leon has not changed. Commissioner De Leon must resign our seat on this commission for his racist, misogynistic statements. Commissioner De Leon cannot wait for these words to boil over and cannot pretend that they didn't happen. You may smile and you may smirk. Words matter, Commissioner. And as long as I am able to, sir,
1 minute.
I will be sure that you and everyone else remembers the hateful words you spoke. No amount of smoke will cover what you said, even without a fire chief in place. I spoke with Commissioner Dees this past week, who stated that firing our fire chief, our city attorney, our city manager were accomplishments for them and proof positive that they were cleaning up our city. Commissioners, replacing an ineffective city government or city management with yes men, buddies, and compadres is not progress. It's exchanging one failed system for another. We deserve better. To my fellow citizens of Brownsville, now more than ever, your committee needs all of us to continue to come together as one and return city government to serve our community as a whole, and not only a selected few compadres, buddies, or special interests that continues to pour money into the pockets of those we have elected to serve the greater good. We so desperately yearn for transparency and accountability. Empty words in this chamber. I pray that next meeting, my monthly recap, be all the more positive. And now is the time for all good men to come to the aid of their city. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay. The next,
Mayor and Commissioners, we did have Ms. Catalina Presas for a public comment, but she went ahead and left, so she won't be speaking
for
tonight.
Cata, okay. All right, item number 7.
Next, we have items for individual consideration. Item number 7, consideration and action to adopt resolution number 2017-064, approving the proposal by the Cameron Appraisal District for the renovation of the Appraisal District's headquarters.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, the Chief Appraiser, Mr. Richard Molina, would like to make a presentation to you. What they want to do, they want to expand their offices in their San Benito. This is the Chief Appraiser for Cameron Appraisal District. Mr. Richard Molina, you want to approach the, and we have the PowerPoint ready.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to be up here today. I want to thank Mr. Pete Gonzalez for meeting with me on October 27th to discuss this.
With the arrow forward.
Okay. Okay. I'll give you a summary of everything that we're doing. The presentation is a summary. I believe there was a letter in your packets of what we presented. The Cameron Appraisal District, we are planning to do a building addition to the office we currently have located in San Benito. We are currently in a 15,000 square foot building. We've been there since 1985. Back in 1985, there was approximately 40 employees there. We're currently at 60 as of today. We have been working for a good few years trying to build up a reserve to get an architect on board to give us a design that could accommodate, some additional staff in that office. What they've done is we've got a proposed addition of a 40 by 50. We've contracted with K Plus Architect firm out of Los Fresno, and they've pretty much have the plan sets at 95% complete at this point in time. The process for the appraisal district is just a lot of work that we have to do prior. The original stage caused for us to request it from the Board of Directors, of course, the approval to do a building addition. That was done, and it was confirmed in October 16th at our board meeting. So once we did that, we have to go ahead and start notifying every taxing entity that has a voting right for the appraisal district. And we have to have 3/4 of approval from every entity in order to continue the process that we're looking forward to. This is the existing building and how the proposed would be adjacent to it. It's not all that clear because we had to build it up. It was on a very small sheet. But the building itself, it'll occupy, for a good another 10 to 15 years is what we're estimating at. The whole hiccup has to be because of since we're operate under the property tax code, and all the entities are basically the owners of the appraisal district, we have to present this to all the entities that have voting right. The other thing we have to do is present them with the proposal of what do we estimate it to cost, and then two alternatives that we took into consideration when we took it to the board. All this is under section 6.051 of the property tax code, and that is where we're at today. We've done this part. We're at the part where we're now having to meet with all the entities to get their approval. We already went through the required board approval. The approval of the governing bodies with voting rights is where we're at. We're searching to get the 3/4. We have 30 entities out of the 42 that we appraise property for. We have 30 that have voting rights, okay? And we have to get approximately 23 of them that will give us the A on that. We presented the letter on October 27th, and of course, by the statute, we have 30 days. Once we present the letter, we have to get that on the agenda and approved or denied by the entity. If those 30 days pass, it counts as a no for that entity. We did provide two alternatives. The actual construction cost that we came up with the addition is $650,000 is what we've got. That was done by, of course, K Plus Architect. The biggest thing about this is that we actually have a little over $800,000 in reserve that was dedicated for this expansion already. So for the entities themselves, it doesn't cost anything additional. Our job is just to make sure that when we go out for the bidding process, that we go out and try to entertain as many people to bid on the project and try to get the best pricing, of course, with a good, reasonable contractor to do the project and the addition. The two alternatives that we took to the board was, one, if we were to stay at the existing location, basically tear down, rebuild at that location. Of course, the land belongs to the district or to the entities. The total cost of that would cost $5.8 million is what we came up with. The other alternative was if we were to actually build off-site somewhere. Of course, finding the land would be finding something anywhere between probably $200,000 to $600,000 in land. Land is just a little hard to find sometimes in the areas you need it, but of course we try to stay as centralized to the county as we can. With that expansion, of course, we would definitely try to make sure that whatever we build is going to be suitable for the next many years. We anticipate a 25,000 square foot building, and that one was $6.8 million. Of course, if we were to offset those, we would deduct the $800,000 from each of those estimates. You didn't have a question? I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. So, of course, the proposal we took that we were recommending at this point was the original proposal of just doing the expansion to the building there. The key reasons for this, of course, is that the increase in staff in order since 1985 to now, we're already at 50% increased staff. We're projecting another 6 to 8 in the next 3 years. We still need additional appraisers. The county is growing, the parcels are growing. We have to continue to do the best job we can for the entities. 50% growth since 85. The current staff right now, the area for the staff is very tight. Okay, a lot of our space is actually for the public when they come in and see us. We have a decent size setup for boardrooms, for reception areas and stuff for the public themselves. The county growth, of course, population, partials, legislative demand, those are things we have to keep up with. And of course, the main thing is that the district already has the funding for this project. Our part that we're trying to do is just present this, get the entities to approve this so we can proceed to the next phase, which would be finalizing the actual architectural plans and then putting it out for bid. So hopefully sometime early next year, I would like to see some dirt being removed out of there. So anybody have questions or would like anything further to explain?
Does anybody have any questions? I'm the only one here to remember when it was established, so.
And just for your
That's not a good
information,
thing, by the way.
Mayor, I'd like to, I'm sorry I didn't introduce myself, Mr. Gonzalez did myself, but my name is Richard Molina, I'm the chief appraiser there.
Right.
I took Mr. Gomez's place. Mr.
Sure.
Gomez retired this year after 42 years of work, and you know, he retired, and I was glad to fill his shoes.
He did a great job.
It's a
He did
very,
great
very
job.
nice place to work.
Anyway, this is an action item, so unless someone has any questions, do I hear a motion?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Richard, good luck to you.
Mayor, Commissioners, thank you very
Keep up
much.
the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
Item number 8.
Next, we have action item number 8, consideration and action to approve resolution number 2017-065, approving the plan of finance to issue general obligation refunding bonds to refund a portion of the city's outstanding indebtedness and to issue certifications of obligation and public property finance contractual obligations to finance the acquisition and construction of certain public improvements, and authorizing the city staffs and professional advisors to prepare and distribute all documents and take all actions deemed necessary in connection with preparing for the issuance of such obligations, including the selection of underwriters and the preparation and distribution of a preliminary official statement.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, way back in this year, we came before you, it was around May of this year. We asked for, and you adopted a reimbursement resolution whereby we were, at that time, we began the process with the adoption of that resolution to start spending some of the funds that we're going to, asking you to issue us some certificates so that we can carry on with that resolution that was adopted way back in May. I'm going to go very briefly here. What are we going to be financing with the certificates of obligation? We have streets of $5 million. We have a central library renovation of $5 million. Parks improvements of $837,497. We have plumbing chillers for the police station, $760,000. We also have a local share for the Tiger Grant, Phase 2, $3,667,503, and we also have for the landfill construction of $2 billion. This is a pie graph of what we just stated. The majority obviously is on streets, 29%, B Metro 21%, library 29%, landfill 12%, and so forth. Now these are some of the projects for streets. The library, $5 million. Parks improvements, $837,000. Library, the main police station, $760,000. The matching grant for Tiger Grant. And of course, the cell construction for the landfill. We are, with the assistance of Estrada Hinojosa, we were able to see we can stay with the same tax rate for debt service, which is right now at 2510. With their assistance, they were able to reconstruct our debt, and by restructuring some of our debt, that keeps our tax rate more or less at the same time, since we're issuing around $22 million worth of certificates of this year. We also have categories for issuing some certificates for light and heavy equipment, $5 million. And this includes for fire equipment, includes light equipment, heavy equipment, and the total debt for the city right now is $130,917,552, and we have a self-supporting debt of $4,767,448. Now, I'll go ahead and present Mr. Noe Hinojosa, who's with Estrada Hinojosa, to talk to you about how we're going to be able to finance all these projects.
Can I ask real quick, Pete, the $5 million at the library, what is that for?
And how come we didn't get like the streets that are gonna be fixed? I mean, there's a lot of things, Mr. Gonzalez. I don't think it's so much at this point, the amount, it's where is it going to? It just says streets and drainage improvements, 5 mil, but do we know what streets are actually gonna be improved, what drainage is actually gonna be improved? I mean, the Tiger Grant, most of us were, well, in my particularity, I was really against this whole thing because we were gonna have to match it, and now it says Phase 2 plus Buzz acquisition, so I just feel we keep throwing money at this Tiger Grant. And I would like to see what exactly we are gonna improve, because it says parks improvement, 800,000, but then we have item, agenda number, what is it? I think it's 13 or 14, where we're giving about $400,000 to buy more things for a park. Here it is, 13. So does this 13 include this one, or what exactly are we? I mean, I don't think it's the amount that's at issue, it's what are we gonna actually do with all this? You just list all the vehicles you want to replace. But that's my concern. I don't know if you have an actual thing where, oh, this is what we're gonna actually use the
Well,
money
obviously,
for.
all the equipment that we're trying to replace are very old equipment that's costing us to actually more repairs. So the idea is to replace those old, and I'm talking about old equipment that the city has, and this is something that was discussed several months ago. Mr. Hinojosa came to you and talked to you about some of these replacements that we needed to make. In other words, we were going to buy instead of maintaining, because maintaining them, it's costing us quite a bit of money as far as for equipment and vehicles.
I agree with the vehicles. I think that's very important, and then
So
they go to
that's that
auction
one.
and people buy them. But I agree with Commissioner De Leon that I just would like to see what streets and what we're funding, and along with the library. That's a lot, $5 million is a lot of money, and I just want to make sure it's being applied wisely.
Yes, ma'am. The main library, as you know, is more than 20 years old. With some of the things that's going to be improved, the issues take care of roofing issues, replacing all the flashing on the top of the building and the metal roofing as well. On the inside of the building, we're going to be renovating the front section of the building with the lobby and the restrooms. We've got plumbing problems that will be fixed for the library, where we have degrading plumbing lines under the slab. Those are the different things that are going to be done. One of the things we're also concentrating on is trying to take care of the wasted space at the front of the building and make it more library space, because we don't have enough space for our patrons in the facility. So those are some of the other renovations that will be occurring with the funding.
I remember recently we spent $6 million on something at the library. Was it the roof?
That was, one of the things was the federal domes, the FEMA domes, which that project had been canceled. We were hoping to re-roof the building several years ago as part of the process, but that was put on hold because the development of the domes was going to be connected to the current structure.
So the $6 million never happened. It just was.
The funding that was allotted before had been realigned for
Yes,
street use, I believe.
The vehicles that y'all are going to purchase, are they going to be done through that buy board, or are they going to go with local bids? Do you know? There's a bunch of the vehicles.
Well, we always go out for obviously for the best price, and so we go out for proposals, or for bids, and we get the lowest price, yes.
So they go out normal?
Actually,
normal
some of this
bids?
has already been purchased. Remember, way back in May of this year, you approved, this commission approved a reimbursement resolution. You gave us their authority to start spending some of these funds. Here tonight, we're asking you that we're getting ready to issue a certificate, which will be done in December, but some of this information was approved way back in May, and we have the paperwork here of May 16th of 2017, when we came before this commission and you adopted a reimbursement resolution of all these items that are being brought here tonight.
That is correct, Mr. Gonzalez. Nobody's disputing that. What we're disputing, sir, is, what
Well,
I'm saying is.
that reimbursement resolution, excuse me, sir, is you give us the authority to start spending some of these funds. So some of this equipment has already been purchased through the bidding process.
So let me ask you, sir, now, just because it's been done, we can't question it?
Yes, you can.
Well,
Well,
then
the
why
question
is
that,
this?
the question that came up, are you going to buy board or are you going to spend, and we are. The
Well,
answer
then
is
just
yes.
answer the question, sir. You don't have to get mad at us and start
No, I'm
bringing up all
not.
these other things. I mean, it was a simple question from one of the commissioners.
The meeting in May was the one after the election, that the election results were canvassed, but we were not seated until the following meeting, right? But it was at that first meeting, prior to us being seated, that you passed those COs, I believe.
Okay, yeah, the resolution was adopted in May of 16.
No, it was a year before.
and if-
Okay,
and if
okay.
I
May-
remember-
May of 2016, I thought you said May 16th, May of 2016,
2017,
May 16th of 2017.
yes, sir.
And that was when you accepted the canvassing of the votes, but you didn't seat us. And then they waited an extra meeting, and it's that meeting when y'all passed the COs, right?
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that.
And if I recall correctly, I mean, they told us that they were gonna start purchasing a lot of equipment that needed to be, I mean, there was old equipment that needed to be replaced. But now here, my question is, well, like library, I know we need the central library renovations. Parks improvements, I would like to know what park improvements and which ones, because I feel that we give
Yeah.
more emphasis to some over others. I really have issues with the B Metro, as you are well aware, for the past 2.5 years, and really this Tiger Grant I've been against since the very beginning, because I didn't see what the benefit would be to the community overall. So I just want to know, I mean, this is now a phase 2. I know some other communities have basically dropped the ball. They are not participating in this Tiger Grant, and it was amended. So really, that's what we're asking, Mr. Gonzalez. We're not questioning if you brought it to us or not. We just want to know, I mean, what is phase 2 of this Tiger Grant? I mean, I was opposed a whole Tiger Grant, and everybody made a big fuzz that we were going to get millions of dollars from the federal government. Well, yeah, we were going to have to match it 1-to-1. I mean, that was something that I think people just kind of forget, that all these grants have matching funds. So what's the purpose if I want to spend $1 and I have to bring another $1? Where do we get that $1 from? And now we're going to go into debt to do a second phase of something that I'm still wondering what it really is. And I think a lot of the people in the community are also wondering what, I mean, the second phase of this Tiger Grant is. And I will be honest with you, sir, I'm a cyclist, but if it's just to do more, I mean, bike lanes, we're already allocating $500,000. So I would really like to know what exactly we're going to do with the money. I'm not questioning if it's the right thing or not, because you've always been very honest and sincere with the commission, and you've done a lot of great things for the city. Right now, I'm just trying to get answers, because sometimes we're stopped in the street, sir, and they're telling me, well, you're already throwing $500,000 to bikes, then what's going to be the second phase of the Tiger Grant? So you start wondering, well, isn't there duplicity? And that's one of the questions that I had on another item, which is that one with the parks. So we're doing $800,000, but we're also doing $400,000 over here. So if it's a 1.2 million, what does the parks just come and say, look, this is what we really need? And the problem is that every time we're here, you just add different amounts of different things, so it's very hard for us to keep track, sir. And if it's hard for us, it's very hard for our citizens to keep track. And really, they just want to know what we're doing with the money at the end of the day.
On the parks, what they're buying is they're buying equipment, parks equipment, playground equipment.
And they're for kids. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a great tool. Let me tell you, I love parks. I mean, the greatest experience ever growing up. I mean, going to Ringgold. I mean, I like Morningside Park. I mean, but I want to be able to give a direct answer, sir.
Yeah, another area in the parks is they've got some restrooms that need to be
That's
repaired.
true.
Some of those areas. And the vehicles are obviously for some of the parks department. And we have public works that needs vehicles, fire department. All of these are to replace some of the major maintenance that we've had in some of this equipment. On the Tiger Grant, again, that grant has not been approved yet. And it's almost at the final stages. I think we can have Marina and Norma, who have been spearheading this grant. If you have anything to say on this, Norma, you want to? Maybe you can talk about the.
Maybe we ought to have a workshop or something.
Yeah, maybe.
Mayor, Commissioners, I'd like to step in here. Yes, what I'm looking here is the COs, yes, issued, but there was a capital improvement plan There is plans with the listing of the streets, of the drainages. What we'll do is to make sure we ensure to share it with you. We do also have the thing for the Tiger Grant, so we have that broken down. We just need to make sure we include it in our packet. I think that's where the concern is, that the plan has been in place. We just need to make sure to bring the plan to you so you can look at it, and then we can discuss that as well. But we do have all the names of the streets. We do have the parks we're going to do. And I believe we even have, to be honest with you, where I'm looking at, we need more money than this to get our proper plan to where we need capital improvements, but we do have that written out and listed. So whatever you would like to do as mayor commissioners, we can go ahead and take it, bring it back to you, or however you want to do it.
Well, let's do this, Mike. For some reason, I got a chance to glance at that somewhere along when I was asking the same questions we're asking here. And we got a chance to take a look at some of this stuff. Why don't we share that with all the entire commission? That's, at this particular point, though, this is an action item. What is the will of the commission? Do we approve, or do you want to wait or table it for the next meeting? What's your pleasure?
I really would like to see the list of streets just to make sure that my constituents know that when we're borrowing money, I'm making sure that I'm.
It's there. I think you guys are going to have a chance to take a look at it. Just like I said, we were talking about this before, Commissioner. It's just like it's a lot of work.
And also, there's two commissioners that when we first approved it, they weren't yet on the commission. So I think I think it'd be the right thing to do. I mean, if we could just get.
Is that going to
everybody-
create some problems, Noe, to reissue these COs?
And you see, that was also the other question that, if some of these things have already begun, I guess we have to find a way to pay for some of these new purchases. So, I guess you're the expert.
I don't know if I'm the expert at how you prioritize. Noe Hinojosa, for the record, with Strine Hinojosa & Company, served the city as financial advisor for at least a couple of decades now. It's showing age, I guess. The only thing that concerns me is the refinancing of some debt.
That's what I'm saying.
That is outstanding. You got about, if you look at the first page of, did you put this in here? Yeah. I guess going back to the second page. Yeah, I've got it right here. Yeah, they already got it. So basically, if you look at page 2 of what I handed out to you, at the very bottom of those columns, you'll see 3 lines that deals with $3 million of AMT bonds, and then refunding bonds of GOs of about $4,085,000, and then COs of another $5,055,000. Those 3 bonds can be refinanced for savings. All the other stuff you're talking about, the COs and the equipment, that can be done later. I do care about the refunding because the market, we have to anticipate a call date on 2/15. In order to get there, we got to close those financings somewhere in late December or even mid-January. And we got to start today to sort of get this ball rolling. As it pertains to the new money, which is what you were talking with Mr. Gonzalez earlier, if you, for example, and I'm not suggesting you do anything until you're very, very comfortable with it, if you were to borrow the $70,265,000, what the bond lawyer has prepared for you is a resolution indicating that you can borrow money for the streets and drainage, engineering on sidewalks and bike paths, central library renovation, parks, and so on and so forth. It doesn't obligate you to an amount specific to that line item. You can always shift those amounts as long as you stay within those lines. So from our perspective, if you were to proceed with this loan tonight, all you're giving us tonight is an opportunity to go out and publish a notice of intent to borrow funds sometime on or about December the 12th. You don't have to. If on December the 12th, between now being November 6th and December 12th, you don't like any of this, you don't have to borrow the funds on December the 12th. The equipment, as I've been told by staff, has already been purchased, has already been acquired. So that will be done through a PPFCO. For some of you who were not here about a year ago, I think I presented a capital improvement plan. And that CIP consisted of identifying major needs and minor needs of the city, general fund, or for that matter, needs that were within the auspices of this commission. And we identified about $200 million. And I'm gonna go macro on you. Out of the 200 million, 105 million was for the airport. 2 runways were about $70 million, and about 35 million for the airport terminal. How are you gonna fund that airport project? At that time, we basically assumed that the best place to go to was going to JBIC and having JBIC help us pay for all or a fraction of that debt. We'll cross that bridge not tonight, we'll cross that bridge later. But what's important for you to know is that back, I think, even before December of last year, we started working on June or May of 2016 to prepare the CIP back in December. You haven't done anything. You haven't acquired, you haven't borrowed anything since I think 16 or late 15 for new projects. So what we're tasked with is to help us identify the projects and then help us identify the best way to fund these projects without impacting property taxes. So going back, airport was 105. $45 million was going to be for general fund improvement projects, including streets, including library, parks, police, bus, landfill. And so there was a category back in December of last year that talked about $45 million. This is a 5-year CIP. You were not going to borrow the $45 million tonight. You were going to do it over a period of 5 years. So this was going to be your first installment over the next 5 years. Every other year, you were going to borrow $15 million to say. So tonight is 17, the commitment for. So how can you pay $45 million? Today, if you do nothing, the city's finances, the city's debt position drops in the next 4 years about $44, $47 million. If you go out 5 years, it drops another $14 million. You're paying your debt so fast, and that's reflected on page 2. There's a little quadrant that I put some graphs. And if you look at those graphs, between 2018 and 2024, that's literally 7 years, you're paying about 70% of your debt. So you're paying it really fast. What does that mean? That gives you a capacity to do something. The question becomes, it's not the capacity we're concerned with. What we're concerned with is what is the money going to be used for? And that is very prudent. I understand the question very well, but at the end of the day, the more you keep, I mean, you can work both ways. You can say, I want to know what we're going to borrow the money for, or, okay, do I have the capacity and can I identify the projects later as we're going through this process? Well, the only thing I can say to you is that I think today or tonight, in the notice that has been given to you, that has been provided to you by the lawyers, you have the ability to borrow 15 or 17 million for the categories provided above on that page 1 or what Mr. Gonzalez just gave you earlier. So as long as you know, hey, I can fund the streets, I can do engineering, I can do public works, I can do landfill, library, you're not committed to any particular amount. You can stay, you can shift the amounts in those categories. So that's what I worry about, is that the year is elapsing, and then if you move up to the next year, I don't know what rates will do, for that matter, none of us do, but at the end of the day, what's important to you, or what's important to us, is that the refinancing is something I cannot afford to delay, because then February 15 is right here, and we basically paid the bondholder, the fellow that loaned you the money originally back in 2008, we're going to pay him more interest, and we missed that opportunity. So to me, what I think is inevitable to do is the PPFCO, which is the equipment. We already spent that money, right? Part of it. Part of it. So you got there, think of that money like you use your savings account and you acquire the equipment. And in order for the IRS to recognize you to reimburse yourself by borrowing money, is you got to put a reimbursement resolution. So that's what Mr. Gonzalez brought to you back in May of 17, I guess. He brought to you a reimbursement resolution so that you can put money back into your savings account. Why is it important to have money in the savings account replaced? Because if you get hit by an emergency, you got to have that savings there. So then the question becomes, if you so choose to go forward, there's a page 3 that shows you the savings. The most important page is the one on page 4. That's your spreadsheet. Think of the city having 15 homes, 15 different mortgages, and those mortgages have maturities at different levels. And basically, your mortgage payment for all those loans is on the 4th column from left to right. Today, in 2018, was projected for you to make a payment on is on row number 2018. You just go across to the right. On the 4th column, it says existing debt service. That payment is $16.8 million. So if you do nothing this year or next year in 18, your payment will drop to $16.3 million. The following year it goes up to $16.9 million. Today, the city not only relies on taxes to pay that debt, it also brings money from landfill and from JBIC to offset the payment of that debt, that the tax levy of 25 cents is not enough to pay that, right? So if you borrow the 17 million, you look at the 5th column, the first shaded blue, your payments will be about $1.2 million for that 17 million. And basically, when you go all across the second column from right to left, the impact on the tax rate in 18 is negligible. There's not a tax rate increase. There's a tax rate increase contemplated in 19, but you have many means to make sure that you don't ever impact the tax rate. Even after you do the next $15 million in 2019, and another 15 in 2021. But every step of the way, this loan is going to be managed. What is not being managed is what you're concerned with, and rightfully so. How are we going to spend this money? But at the end of the day, the city's capacity is pretty ample, and you're supposed to be mindful of, hey, where the money's going. And if you're not comfortable with that, that's fine. But when it comes to if you were to access, what does that do to us? It doesn't do very much. The refundings is something that, it helps us structure them because, rates are, you're going to replace a 5% loan rate with a 2.2% rate. So that don't take a rocket scientist to figure that. But anyway, that's where I stand, and Pete, I don't know if you...
No, if I, just
Please.
one very simple question. So basically, we can approve this so you can go meet with bond counsel. You start preparing everything with your office for I think you...
Rating presentation.
Yes, which is like in December, according to the timeline.
Yeah, if you go to page 5.
You have your timeline on page 5.
Yeah.
So we can approve this, and then in the meantime, we can meet with city staff, or we can do a workshop with the community, and we can figure out, okay, this makes sense, this we need, this is a need, this is a want. And then at that point, if we figure out that, hey, we need less money, we can always borrow less.
We can always bring down, what you're telling the public is you're going to borrow an amount not to exceed, is it 17,265? So you can come back to me and say, no, you know what, we don't need 17,265. We have workshops, we just want to borrow 5 or 3 million. And that's it. We come back to you, and on the 12th of December.
You're on the right track.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're on the right track. The thing about it is, you wouldn't want to sit there and say, I want to borrow $12 million and then come back and say, I need 14.
Exactly.
So
That's right.
You're in a
You only have
place-
one chance at the.
Yeah, you want to come back in here and sit there and say, okay, we got this, you got credit. is what really, and in order to refinance, and I understand, because that's a moving target, that your rate of interest, so that's.
And they'll probably raise it.
That's how you guys make your money, but that's the way it's set up. I mean,
Yeah.
Because it fluctuates,
So if you have a workshop, let's say you have a workshop next week, and you want to talk about the specific items, you're going to stay within those line items on page 1. Public Works, Engineering, Library, Parks, Police, Brownsville Metro, and Landfill. If you say, I don't want Brownsville Metro, okay, take it out. You want to put it on landfill, put it on landfill. You want to put it on streets, that's your prerogative. If that is if you want to borrow the 17 million too. If you want to borrow 8 or 9, you can do that too. And then Mr. Gonzalez's office will tell me, no, we're not going to decide in a quarter. The commission decided only 8 or 5 or 3. And that's it. That's what we'll do.
I think everybody's now in full understanding. Is that right, Commissioner? Is everybody?
And then on the equipment, that's where I need more guidance from you all. Is the equipment something that you feel comfortable with? I'll tell you this. What we found back on June 16th through December 16th is that within the general fund, you were spending about $4.2 million in maintenance repairs.
It's the same thing you found out with the police.
It's the
Take
same
care of
thing
this
that we
old
did with the
equipment.
police vehicles.
So what
Yeah,
we
no.
did, we took out all the old equipment and replaced it with new. Is that not fair?
Yeah, because again, sometimes it just sort of depends on when anybody's available. So a lot of times we don't have those workshops, but I think I suggest Michael and Pete to get together with some of these commissioners, and whoever wants to attend is to go in there so that we can have that discussion. I sometimes come to you guys, and that's why I get a chance to see some of the stuff. Anyway, I'll consider
the
a
guidance
motion.
So the guidance that I'm looking for you, Mayor.
I have one other
Yeah,
question.
please.
Yeah, go ahead.
If I remember correctly, the vote was for 21 million, not 17 million. Is that correct?
Well, I guess
Back in May.
if you add the 70,265,000 and plus 5 is 22,265,000.
Where's the other 5?
That right there on page 1, at the very, on the page 1, at the very bottom on the right-hand side, you'll see 2265, which is the sum of the equipment of $5 million and 17,265.
It's on page 1, bottom.
So that 5 was already spent, is that what you're saying? Or what?
A portion of it.
Okay, so are you asking, shouldn't you be asking for more than 17 million then? Shouldn't you be asking for 22 million?
Well, from what is required by law is that you publish a notice of intent only on the 17,265,000. The PPFCOs, that instrument that we're using to fund the equipment, does not require a notice for 21 million or for 17 million. You can do a PPFCO without any notice. That's the law.
So you're really going for 22 million, not 17?
That's right, 22 million and 2 refunds. Yes, sir. Sorry for the confusion there. At the end of the day, what I want you to understand is that we'd like to have the guidance is for $5 million of the equipment, the 2 refundings, and then you'll tell us later whether it's 17 and a quarter or less. And we'll just wait for the instructions from staff, if you were to approve this item tonight.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion carries.
Thank you for your trust.
Item number 9.
Action item number 9, consideration action to approve resolution number 2017-066, authorizing publication of a notice of intent to issue certificates of obligation to finance the acquisition, construction, and equipping of various capital improvement projects.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Commission, as Noe pointed earlier, we need to publish this for 30 days in the newspaper, and we plan to publish the notice of intention to issue the certificates of obligation this coming Saturday, which is the 11th, and we also need another publication 7 days later, which would be Saturday, the 18th. And we are asking you for approval of the resolution.
Okay, do I hear a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Item number 10.
Action item number 10, consideration action to authorize change order to task order number 5 to CH2M to increase scope of work to design services related to new airport terminal project at the Brownsville South Padre Island International Airport.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Commissioners. Tonight, we're presenting this change order to task order number 5. Turns out our terminal size increased, so that increased the engineer's costs. And that's what we're asking for tonight.
And how did you not know that it was going to be a certain size the first time you came here? I mean,
Well,
I think we were very clear that we were going to have any change orders, we were going to have any fund
Right.
business the first time you came here.
This has nothing to do with the construction. This is with the design. The design is funded by FAA grant, 1.2 million. This portion would actually be taken out of an approved PFC funds that we have right now. So the reason it was approved or whatever at the level it was based on the original grant that was in 2014 sent to the FAA. An estimation was based on current conditions of the airport, the size and passenger counts and things like that. It expanded because at the time they were just using, the engineers were using the same size facilities of TSA and CBP for the most part. So they were just going to replicate the areas that they use for processing passengers. When they started doing the engineering, it turns out that they needed much more space than was originally required because design requirements changed for the federal government. CBP has a certain minimum area it needs to process passengers, as well as TSA. As recently as last month, TSA released a new screening program that required it to expand again. So those were things that were kind of out of our control and out of the control of whoever was doing this at the time. So basically the square footage went from the 65,000 square feet, and we're not talking construction now, but it went from 65,000 square feet to 85,000 square feet. These funds are for the design of that.
So they're charging us $850,000 for a 20,000 square foot increase in the building? Their engineering fees, that's what you're...
Essentially, that's fairly accurate, but for the total design, if you look at the percentages, it's only a 6% of the construction costs. Because the estimate, or the 20,000 square feet is actually, it represents a $10 million increase to the construction of the terminal.
But Brian, let me ask you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Judge.
The original amount was 1,600, right? I mean, 1,650,000.
Correct.
And they're adding 850,000 to that
Yes, 30%.
to make up for a 20,000 square foot change in their engineering.
It is, yes.
That they didn't anticipate.
Correct, and it wasn't just an engineering issue. And like I said, the conditions changed during the design process, but it was also approved by the FAA. So even the FAA agreed at the time that the 65,000 would have been good, but we know better now. But also the funding, the plan for us to fund this isn't coming out of the airport budget or the general fund. This is coming from authorized PFC authorizations that already exist, that they had been authorized for a different project. That project was completed with other funds somehow. So those funds are now available for us to use, and we can apply it to this.
But those are funds that the FAA gives us, or?
They're funds that the
that
FAA
the general
authorizes
fund
us to
gives.
collect. It's not general funds. Those are user fees the airport collects from each ticket that's sold on an airline.
So that money is saved somewhere?
Yes, it is.
In what fund is that in?
It's in our PFC fund.
Okay, PFC.
It's an airport PFC fund.
Now, my subsequent question really is, when you read this little update, I mean, it goes, it gives you the square footage, paragraph 1, very nicely, but then based on current expansion of the scope of work, design fee, city commissioner approval or increase, the design fee is based on the additional 10 million anticipated construction costs associated with the expansion of the scope of work. So are you telling us that it's going to go from 28 million to 38 million? That is really my real question, because we said the project was going to be 28, and that's where we were all at, and now they're saying, well, it's going to be 38. So my fear is you're going to come back in a couple of months and tell me I need $10 million, and even then we're scrambling to put together the money for the airport, but $10 million is a lot of money.
Yes, it is.
And the thing is, I mean, just to go back on Mr. Gonzalez, if I'm remembering that commission meeting, and I even told Charlie, I was like, sir, you can't just come and hit us with $2-3 million you're going to go replace a fleet. You know, we have to kind of think these things through. When we did it with the police officers' cars, it took us like 6-7 months. Everybody was informed of it. It was something that everybody knew that was going to happen. But here, I'm just a little skeptical that the price for the actual airport will jump. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to be voting no, 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 and no, because I already told no change orders, and I was very clear on the airport project. I was like, is this what it's going to cost? And I even said, you tell those engineers that they better get bonds, because I don't want them coming back and saying that, hey, we need more money, we need more money. And we even directed the city attorney's office to make sure that in those contracts it said that the engineers couldn't just do change orders because they need at the time being. that they would have to be approved.
Right.
And so that's really my concern, Brian. I just don't want you to come back in a couple of months and tell me, well, now I need 38, not 28, because we frankly don't have the money, and if we're going to borrow it, it's not like we're just going to go off on a shopping spree. I mean, we said that the project would be very concise. It would be, I mean, it was going to just be what it was. So that's really my concern with this.
Right.
Under your update, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No,
That's
okay,
right.
just to address your concern, the price of the terminal, the complete airport rebuild is 38 million. That's the price. I'm not asking for 10 million more. The price for the terminal has always been pegged at 27 and a half. That price at the last commission meeting where we approved the design, it was pegged at about 30. So we've seen an increase of a couple $1 million. And that is what I see as really the increase I would be asking for, a couple million. But I think that's pretty much offset by the 12.7 the FAA gave us rather than the 5 that they originally started with. So we're good there. What was never really presented to the commission, in my opinion, is all of the other infrastructure that was needed. That was never included in the price tag. Everybody was just always talking about the building. So even when Commissioner Longoria asked me, how much does that building cost? I said, well, the building, the whole project. He said, the building. I said, well, it's 30 million. That's what the building's going to cost. And I'm not looking for a change order to any of that, and this isn't a change order to that. This is for the design alone. But I don't know if that answers your question. Pardon?
Authorized change order.
It's a change order for not for the terminal construction, this is for the design. But I try to find my own funds. So you're asking me if I'm going to come back and ask you for another 10 million. I'm not. I may go to the FAA and ask for more. I may go to PUB. I may go to, BCIC or GBIC, but I'm not going to be asking you for that extra anything. Yeah. Okay.
In any given project, and I respect your policy position, there's no house again for the record. You're in the design phase right now. And then you're in the design phase not by yourself, but with this partner called FAA. And we represent a lot of airports in the state. And FAA is not the easiest of partners. That's why he or she has said to you, instead of giving you 5, we're going to give you 12. But that comes, I'm sure, with a commitment that, hey, can you come up with a local? So right now, the change orders, I understand it, is that it's only for the design phase. After the design phase, once you have everything that FAA requires you to have, then you go out for bid. And at that time, when you go out for bid, that's the construction phase. Then at that point, you want somebody to give you a bid with a guaranteed maximum price, so that you know for certain what that price is going to be. But today, if I understand you correctly, Brian, is going to be only for design, and the money is not coming from any fund of the city. It comes from a fund that we all pay when we use the airline, and it's only dedicated for the benefit of the airport, at the airport, and that's what you're doing. So that's, I'm trying to help, I'm not trying to convince you.
Brian, I think the one thing that might be enlightening, it's sort of like when you talk about, when Noe talked about the runways, all that belongs to the FAA, and even though you have to go out and spend that money, you get it all back. That's reimbursable because that belongs to them. So I think a little primer of, some of these things. So I think what I'm hearing from the commission is I wasn't anticipating that, or I didn't see that, and we can take a look and say, change order, and you say, well, it's a change order for the design. Well, we got to make there's a distinction with a difference, okay? And because there is a difference in the change order for the actual construction. So let's maybe get a little bit of clarity by doing a little bit of, and we can post it, in the public, website, whatever it is, so that these issues can hopefully not, remain a mystery of some kind. Because again, I happen to have been with you to the FAA and been to, with you too. And so I'm up to a lot of the different things that are happening. So go ahead.
Now, under your update section, you say here that the scope of work has increased from 74,000 square feet to 108,000 square feet. So you told us it was from 65 to 85.
That's correct.
So was that an error? Because otherwise, we're going to be back here again with another change order.
That's an error.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're anticipating 108,000 square foot based on what you've been telling us up to now.
I
Okay,
think
so that was the increase?
Yes.
About 30?
Correct.
40,000, 35,000?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is an error.
But is this area, should it be 65 to 85, or is it 74 to 108?
No, it was 65 to 85.
Okay.
They did try to expand it beyond the 85, and we had to, you know, we went to them. We're not going to have you tell us to scale it back. We went to them and told them to scale it back. And there was definitely some things we had to take out, but we brought it back down to 85. So this is an error. And to further address the idea of change orders, we did break the design into 2 phases. And our phase 1, which is actually the next item on the agenda, but the phase 1 we put out for bid. It came in $200,000 less than the engineer's estimate. So we're looking at cost savings already just in the phase 1. So even though, you know, we have our prices set and our estimates, I believe we're going to continue to do everything we can to keep the price controlled and to keep the project under budget.
I think I hope that didn't discourage you, because I think you've been doing a really wonderful job in making sure that we get this airport completed. But it's very important to all of us. I mean, we've seen these projects balloon in the past with the sports park and things like that. So I guess it's just us being, if the public sees us being, you know, because we understand that we are in a very tight budget and this needs to be finished and this needs to be cost effective to our taxpayers.
Well, and I want to be as realistic as possible with the budget. So as soon as I knew that this thing had expanded like it did, well, I had to bring that. And it says change order. It's for the design. There was nothing I could do about it. But with the terminal construction, no, there won't be any change orders. Well, I believe if we have a cost reduction, that's a change order too. So I might bring that.
Okay.
You put in one of the things that we'll be working on is next year with the departments is every department that saves money will go into little department savings account, and that way every time they have a special project, they have money that they saved up from the year before. And I think that will be a nice little experiment with all the departments. So I'm going to encourage the airport, if you save money, you put in a piggy bank, and that way whenever you want to do a great project or you have something innovative, you have resources to actually do it on money you saved instead of just being thrown back to the general fund.
And the day off.
Okay. Anyway, this is an action item. Do I hear a motion?
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 11, this is where you're going to save us money.
This is where we're saving you money.
Action item number 11, consideration action to award a contract for the terminal construction phase 1 landside package parking lot for the Brownsville South Padre Island Airport.
Again, good evening, Commissioners and Honorable Mayor. This is, like I said, the phase 1 design that we're doing so that we can get to the construction of the terminal. Based on the timeline the FAA gave us the grant for, they wanted to receive bids within 60 days of grant award and acceptance. That day has come and gone, but we have received the bids as per the agreement, and they actually came in really well. The estimates, they actually came in under budget by about $200,000. I think it's a little more than that. So we recommend that it's awarded to the low responsible responding bidder. And let's see, that was that was Foremost Paving. G&G was deemed unresponsive, even though they were a lower bidder, because there were some problems with their numbers. Have any questions or anything?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Action item number 12, consideration action to approve the City of Brownsville Choice Neighborhoods Partnership Certification.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. The City of Brownsville is requesting your consideration and action for approval of the Brownsville Choice Neighborhood Partnership Certification of Commitment to the Housing Authority, City of Brownsville, and this is for the implementation initiative. The HACB is the lead applicant, City of Brownsville is co-applicant and neighborhood entity, along with CDCB as housing entity, and principal education partner are applying to the HUD Choice Neighborhood Implementation Grant. And so this certification is just to identify and confirm our commitment to implementing activities in the Buena Vida neighborhood for this grant. As you recall, the Housing Authority was selected as a choice neighborhood for the planning grant, June of 2016, and the City of Brownsville as co-applicants. So this would be the next step.
I'll move.
I'll second. And
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Keep up
Marina,
the good work.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Especially with the Buena Vida neighborhood. Thank you for everything your office is doing and your staff.
Oh, thank you, thank you. And we have Hilda Ledesma tonight.
There
Thank
they
you.
are. There's my lady.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Number
Next.
13.
Next, we have action item number 13, consideration action to award a contract for the purchase, delivery, and installation of playground equipment for various city parks.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commissions. There should be a PowerPoint presentation. And I just want to, based on some earlier comments, just to remind this commission that back on June 20th, 2017, we came to the commission to share the part of the selection process, where we were with our master plan, why we're making the decisions that we are, and so that was part of that presentation as well. And then just to be clear that these eight playground replacements come from 3 different accounting sources. So one is the Parks Improvement Fund, CDBG funds, and the General Fund. And then just as a quick correction on this, I went through, oops, I don't know if I can edit that. The District 1 actually has 7 parks, District 2 has 5, District 3 has 13, and District 4 has 12. That was some old numbers from a 2014 district map. So just kind of to share some park equity that we're working on, and a lot of these playground replacements are occurring in the worst zoned or worst rated playgrounds. And so just to note that they are done by the safety rating standards that we use, ASTM, and we'll be replacing 7 playground structures today. Or not today, but hopefully for your approval, we will be able to replace them. So this was included in your packet is the tabulation that we went out for quotes. There are no commercial manufacturers of playgrounds in Brownsville, in the lower Rio Grande Valley, nor in the upper valley. So yes, we did go through a buy board process, because the quickest way to do that is most playground manufacturers are all on buy board. We don't have any, we want to, of course, always bid local if we can, but in this case, that was just not feasible. So that is not the route we went. We actually went out to bid twice. We did a formal bid with our purchasing department, and then we solicited quotes again. And so everything highlighted in green on the bid tab is what we are recommending for purchase. And I will move on. And then before we go into the next slide, just to familiarize you with some certain ratings and terms, is EWF stands for Engineered Wood Fiber, which is that wood chips that get thrown everywhere. PIP stands for Poured in Place, so that's a poured surface that's rubberized. Rubberized mulch is the same thing as engineered wood fiber, but it's a rubber material instead of wood. When we reference concrete, we're talking about the surfacing for adult playgrounds. No, we don't put concrete under our playgrounds, so it's for the exercise machines. And then the playground price estimates, some of them do not include the installation or shipping in this figure. So this is a sheet we've been working on that has probably over $1 million of playground upgrades and replacements. And then price figures in parentheses in this next slide show funds that have already been allocated and spent. And then, of course, our tiers. We have, and people are wondering, a level 1 is for our large parks with lots of use. A level 2 tiered park is a neighborhood park, mid-size. And then tier 3 is a pocket park that has less use. And so that based on our maintenance standards, how often it receives care. Mowing, trash, whatnot. Okay. And so through this process of the past 2 years, we've been, since the master plan, and we've got our results from our master plan, we've been going through and rating our playgrounds. And so this is not a list of every park in our system. We have 37. Not all of them have a playground. And so as you'll see the rating system, we're replacing all are rated F and 1 is rated D. And so we're replacing based on safety needs, and we've already removed these playgrounds because they're unsafe and we don't want anybody to get hurt on them.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I often get asked why our parks don't cater to handicap accessible, like with accessories. Like, for example, the swings and ADA accessible, there you go. Like, I would like to see, and I don't know if we can do it with this because of the way that you've already structured it, but I feel it's not right that we have like sporadically, I would like to see every park have at least one accessory that is ADA accessible. And if we can do that with these new ones and just make sure that on every single swing set, we have some kind of feature so that anybody that goes to the park is included in having fun.
Well, and you're speaking to my heart, and I don't know if y'all know, but my background is I'm a certified recreation therapist. So my background's working with people with special needs and making accommodations so they can participate successfully. I can do assessment plans so that they can participate in our programs. You know, that's my goal and mission, is to try to make every playground and park as inclusive as possible.
Can we do that with this bid? Like, can I ask?
They're already.
Okay, every
They're
single
in the
park.
criteria.
Okay, awesome.
Okay,
So
now-
every single park will have an accessory
It
that
will
somebody.
be some, now everyone will not be all the way, some of these based on lot size, like Ruiz Park is one of them. I cannot put, based on the logistics of that park, a huge wheelchair accessible playground in there. But what can we do is we can make sure that there's mobility components, inclusive components, sensory components. And so these are the things, this is why we went back out, because I was like, this is, what we were getting back is not what we wanted. And we wanted to make sure that we included all of that criteria.
Awesome, that makes my heart so happy.
Yeah, and if
Awesome.
you, and I'm gonna point, I'll go back to this one. So, Game Time Who is a great company, and actually we went with Game Time for the Riverside Park, which is inclusive, and we've got the structure, we're just waiting for our installer to have the time to come install it, which is, that's 100% inclusive. And I wanna say also, I think it's a misperception. The Valley, Harlingen is getting highlighted for all their inclusive playgrounds. We have 4 already in Brownsville. Already, and for years we've had it, and we're adding more. So I think with the ribbon cutting at Riverside, we really want to highlight that, hey, we're leading the valley in the number of inclusive ADA accessible playgrounds that we have. So I'll stop my little tangent there.
I'd like to see them all.
Yes, I would love all, and that is a big trend that many parks and rec departments are striving, that every structure can be completely ADA. Okay, so those were the ratings. So we're replacing those. And just to be specific, it was in the back of the packet. Actually, it'll show you in the pictures. So this is just kind of what an F rating looks like. I have many worse pictures than this, but I won't show them. And this was at Ruiz Park. So this is, I believe, out already, and we'll be going. So this is not in any order. So Cabler Park replacement is coming from our general fund money, and we're going to replace the playground structure and the cost of $87,568.92. It is inclusive, it has sensory play, it has musical components, it's age-friendly, and so I don't know if this thing's working. But like little features, like the little dome in there, it's very autism friendly so that you can kind of cocoon yourselves in. There's lots of different things, the music components. So that's what that one looks like should the commission choose to go with that. Another thing we also wanted to really capitalize, we understand we have a lot of needs, of unmet needs, we have replacement, and we're trying to maximize that dollar. And so, you know, we were able to take a unit here that we're recommending for Orlaveta Park, which has an F rating, at $47,000 and get it for $18,000, because what we're doing is we're not saying we're not going to customize the colors. This is something that they ordered, that they have extra on, and a customer changed their mind, and they're trying to get rid of some of their stock. And we said, you know what? It's great. We can use it. Let's save some money and get some more replacements going on. And so that is the $18,000 does not include that installation and shipping and servicing, but it is in the breakdown on the in the package. Okay, so we also have Dean Porter Park, which was removed, and that playground replacement's coming in at 102. That old structure had a rating, an F rating. It is inclusive. It has sensory. It has shade components. It's age friendly and mobility friendly. On the right side, we have Morningside Park playground replacement. That original was $70,000 and change, and, you know, we're getting it for a sale price of $28,000. And then we move on to Wynwood Park. That original price is $149,000. This is all ADA accessible. I really would like to hope that we can work with the local hospitals in that area to really do some park prescription programs and really capitalize on that partnership. It's right close to there. And so that's at the 59. That was, so this one has the ADA ramps, it's sensory, mobility, balance gate components, and some shade included in there. And then we go to Garfield Park. We met with the community. I've been out there several times. And just to when we talk about workshops, through the whole master planning, we're still utilizing all that community feedback, everything that we talked about with the community, every workshop that we had, and keeping that into consideration of what we're putting in these parks. So it's not on a shelf somewhere. We're utilizing that, and we're still coming back to the public to say, hey, what do you want? This is what you said. And even when we went for the Kaboom Playground challenge, like all that feedback is still being utilized today. And so that was an F rating, and so we're coming back to the community, and their biggest thing was like, we like the age group. Playgrounds are structured, you have a 5 to 12, you have a 2 to 5-year-old range, and then the tiny tots. They go, we really want something for our littlest ones as well. And so we said, okay, when we go out to bid, we're gonna make sure that we include the community needs. This is for Ruiz Park, which is a small kind of triangular park. And so can't fit a lot. And so it's a smaller structure, so it's not going to be necessarily ADA, but it meets the needs of the site. And this one in the middle is a spinner, and Ruiz tends to get a little bit of graffiti sometimes. And so this structure, my challenge is to these, well, hopefully they won't break it too much, is to come and try to hop on it, push it, spin it, and to make sure that that energy is hopefully going to try to fling their friends off as a safe manner as possible, so that rather than graffitiing up the park.
And if I may suggest, Maris, maybe what I've seen in other cities is they all actually designate areas, like graffiti areas.
Yes,
And
yes,
that way,
that
maybe
is-
we can start designating some of our parks, like some walls, like designated graffiti area, and that way they
Yeah.
can go do graffiti on those.
We have a long length along Cavler Park, and that has been, it's been something that just, it's kind of fallen on, but yeah, I agree, it's something that
can
we.
Make sure
Just
like,
pilot it,
designated-
we just want to pilot it and see
Yeah,
if it works.
see how it works,
Make
see
sure
how it
it's
turns
not-
out if you
Yeah.
can.
Make
Yeah.
sure it's not the wall that faces my backyard.
Okay.
What do we do with the playgrounds that we remove?
Most of them are in such bad shape. I believe they would go to auction, or if not to scrap, we would resell for the metal value. But they're not, if there's anything salvageable, there may be something, but you also get into potentially a legal issue of the warranty, and I'm not sure. I'd say we would check with legal on that, on what we can do with those. But for so far, they're in bad shape. And through this, and some of these prices came in at first come, first served. Whatever community said, they go, I've got 6. And so if we were paying full price for these, just at least 3 of them, we're saving $160,000, which enables us to get more playground replacements. Of that park improvement fund, I've got, money for restrooms to be repaired. I've got fencing that needs to be repaired at all the ball fields. I've got a lot, we've put in CIPs for years that, we haven't been able to fund completely. So, I mean, 867 is, for us, that is not enough to get the job done, but we're gonna make it work until the next time it is available, because we understand the whole city has needs. And so we'll do what we can with what we have. So that is my presentation. Thank you. Questions, comments?
Anybody have questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to,
Go ahead.
go ahead, Commissioner.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. All the children of Brownsville and their families, thank you. And on
Thank
behalf
you.
of
Thank you.
Motion
Thank you.
carries.
Thank you.
Item number 14.
Next, we have action item number 14, consideration action to award a contract for the traffic signal and roadway improvement for Price Road and Eagle Drive.
Good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm here tonight to award the contract for the traffic signals on Eagle Drive. It'll be east and west on Eagle Drive. There, right now, there are temporary poles. This will be a full-blown signal with mass arms and update with pedestrian signals. The cost was at $265,338.75. Funding is approved already, and I recommend.
Mr. Esparza, just one question. I
Yes, sir.
promise. All these new systems that we're acquiring, they're going to be able to sync with all the other ones that we're purchasing, right?
This was, yeah, the east and west signal on Price and Eagle Drive, they're going to be able to communicate. Right now, they're not communicating, but they will be communicating. Every single that we put now is going GPS systems, it's going to radio systems.
And let me ask you, so overall, I mean, I've envisioned one day that maybe we can put like something at the police department. We can monitor how everything's happening in real time with traffic. And that way, if we need, we can synchronize our system, because I think that's
I've talked to
really
the
one of
chief on that, Commissioner, and he's aware of it, and where's what we're doing with this new MPO money coming in. We're going to be doing that, and we're going to hook up to his antennas. Of course, we're going to meet with him, he's aware of it, and we're going to turn around and hook him up. That way he can see all the traffic flows, what's happening at the same time right there, in peak hours.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Also, the parents and students of Hannah, thank you. They
Well,
can
well,
get to school on time.
It's been needed for a while. It's going to be a great safety issue for the city of Brownsville and
Yeah.
for the motorists also. And
Especially in the morning.
The students walking.
Yeah.
So that's safer.
Yeah, okay. Motion to approve? I'm sorry, motion to approve? Sorry.
It's okay.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Motion carries. Item
Thank you.
number 15.
Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 15, consideration action to authorize the City of Brownsville Metro Department to offer 2 free ride events as follows. HEB's Feast of Sharing on Wednesday, November 8, 2017, from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. in partnership with HEB. And to our veterans for the Red, White, and You Hiring Job Fair on Thursday, November 9, 2017, from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. in partnership with the Texas Workforce Commission and Workforce Solution Cameron.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. My name is Sarah Jovanik, and along with me is Robert J. Garza, and we are from the Office of Brownsville Metro. We are here today to advise you of 2 events this week in partnership with HEB and the Workforce Solutions Cameron, where Brownsville Metro will be offering free rides to HEB's Feast of Sharing and to our veterans. The first event will be HEB's 25th Annual Feast of Sharing on Wednesday, November 8th, with free rides from 10 a.m. through 4 p.m. to all community members. The second event will be the Texas Workforce Commission and Workforce Solutions Cameron 6th Annual Red, White, and You Hiring Job Fair, which will be happening on Thursday, November 9th, with free rides from 8 a.m. in the morning all the way up to 2 p.m. to all of our veterans within the community. The impact of free rides will be minimal to the budget and will encourage all citizens of Brownsville to ride Brownsville Metro. Public transit services for their transportation needs like going to work, school, medical appointments, going to shop, and recreational activities. Brownsville Metro encourages all your constituents to take advantage of the free rides being offered for these 2 events.
Very good. Anybody can't be opposed to any of that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carries.
Thank
you, guys.
We
Very
all
good.
say thank you. Thank you.
Next, we have action item number 16, consideration action to authorize the use of plastic bag fee funds to assist and prevent illegal dumping.
Motion to approve? Just kidding. Just kidding.
No, I have questions, Art. Just this last one.
Absolutely.
The last chance for romance here.
Honorable Mayor, Commissioners, good evening. There's a story to be told with illegal dumping and the background behind it. Like our story is much like any other American city. Other cities have implemented programs to combat illegal dumping.
Keep in mind, a year ago, we lost a funding stream which we were using through the plastic bag fund. At that point in time, we lost an investigator in the downtown area, which would help us in our zones. When we lost that, we had to go back in the health department and restructure our department with our zones. So since then, we've really struggled to try and keep up with illegal dumping and programs to do it. Since we don't have that funding source, early in April when we were doing budget, I tried to see if we could allocate some funding for cameras, and that was not possible. But a different recent survey by the Brownsville Herald, is your neighborhood affected by illegal dumping? Basically, 1 in 2 citizens said that they were 50%. So we think it's an important issue in our community. We're not the first city that's looked at how we are going to combat illegal dumping. City of McAllen has had a program using surveillance cameras. City of Dallas has a really big program, and the City of Victoria. Now, let me premise this in saying that illegal dumping has health issues, rat harborage, mosquitoes, and other diseases. Some of the materials that we find with illegal dumping are tires, building material, old furniture. And the surveillance aspect of it, why surveillance? Why camera surveillance? Why this issue? Over the years, we've tried different ways to improve quality of life. Many years ago, when the fee first went into service, we tried doing the bring your trash for cash, if y'all may remember, Make a Difference Day. And that had a side effect. It was that people started actually hoarding certain, so that they could bring and get money the following event, and that had an unintended consequence. So we kind of left that. We tried recently by bringing in tires for mosquitoes, and while it was a good event, it didn't bring them in mass, and we continue to have illegal dumping occur on our city streets and in our properties. Now, as you know, why are we looking at enhancing surveillance through cameras? We actually have had old cameras that we went and bought at Academy a few years ago that the hunters would get and we would put up. The limitation with those cameras, though, are that they don't have the HD capacity. They don't have the range, like the 180-degree range. It was limited to less than 60 degrees, and it was very time intensive. So essentially, that camera system that we had became more of a detractor, trying to get people to not to dump. But if we had to pursue it and follow up PD to chase a case, it would really become for the onus on us to go to municipal court to prove that illegal dumping did occurred. So it was because it was outdated surveillance. We continue to also find personal information sometimes in trash, social security numbers and things like that. So we think that's why this is important. And and I wanted to mention, this is our illegal dumping caseloads, 605 thus far that were investigated this year. What does it cost the city when we don't catch someone who dumps in our community? It costs us almost $57, and I'm not speaking of potential lost revenues to our to the landfill. So we didn't even integrate that cost into this. So when we looked at cameras, because we think that's going to be the best path, today I'm not here asking for surveillance cameras. Here I'm asking for a budget to be allowed for us to go out and look at using monies from the plastic bag fund to combat illegal dumping. Now keep in mind, in April we did go out and get some pricing because we're not in the business of cameras. And we were surprised by the quotes that we were getting back. But then we learned that these cameras come with cellular telecommunications. They have a feedback to an infrastructure system that's already in place in downtown with our local police department. So there were some enhancements built into this that that we've looked at that we thought would allow us to get a faster roll on doing this program. Many communities have done it differently. From the background that I've seen how they've expanded this program, some of it is an ROI. ROI is basically looking at if you're going to go through municipal court and put citations, Class C, Class B, and Class A, the system over a few years, a year, can pay, the equipment can pay for itself. So the expenditure is an issue up front, but the ROI is if you're able to get convictions And the other thing is that property values are very important, and all fines are assessed by municipal court, but fines may vary. So the key question is, we're trying to make Brownsville beautiful. We're trying to decrease some workloads in some departments. 546 Help is one of the apps we want to push for illegal dumping. We also think the cameras would allow for, if we go that route, for hotspot surveillance and increased data. Data is very important for us in the health department because we're able to connect back with our with our grants department and be able to write some grants to be able to show a before and after photo of what we were able to do in our community. And also in some cases, we've actually found car and vehicle parts that we've coordinated with police department in enforcement of some of the more weight there is with an illegal dumping site, the more egregious the violation is, and it can become a felony. So we are wanting to move forward in a direction where we can have a illegal dumping system in place so that we can stop something like this. This photo occurred this morning on the west side of town. That concludes my presentation.
Well, I want to ask you, Mr. Rodriguez, the one is, well, our municipal court can only issue Class C fines, not Class B or Class A misdemeanors. That's the first observation. The second thing is the municipal court's goal is deterrence, not punishment. We're not here to punish our citizens. And third and lastly, sir, my concern is that I know the police department is working on cameras. I know the Main Street Advisory Board is working on cameras, and I can tell you for sure that Judge Janice has been working on establishing a camera system for downtown. And I think that the health department should be working off with them, because if you have cameras for security, well, you can also deter people dumping. So my whole thing is that we tend to work in silos. And for once, we have the Main Street, GBEC, a commissioner from downtown. I mean, you have the police department, working together, and now you have the health department out here.
Absolutely.
So all I'm going to ask is believe me, eventually we're going to come and we're going to approve monies for this. But all I can ask is if you can work with Commissioner Neese, the Main Street Advisory, with the police department, and not work in a silo. And that way, when we buy a system, it's a system that works for everything. I mean, because if you're deterring or if you're watching, you're trying to avoid crime, well, you'll also be able to watch people actually doing illegal dumping. And the other concern I have, if you just go your route, well, are we going to be placing cameras in alleys? And that's it. And really what we want is in streets, and we want some in alleys, but more importantly, we want the community to feel safe. And if you have Big Brother watching over you, well, they're less likely to illegally dump. So if you could just work with the Main Street and Commissioner Neese. So I don't know if it's a little premature for us to approve this funds or these monies. I know the money's not going anywhere. So I don't know if it would be prudent maybe to table it and come back once. I don't know, what do you think?
Let me just ask you this. It says consideration and action to authorize the use. Is this the ability to use it, or is there a certain amount? I was very unsure about what you were doing here.
Sure. So,
to be honest with you, I was just thinking if we were kind of consider sort of like a poll saying, are we willing to think about that kind of stuff? Because, what happens is, I've been here long enough to know that this is a problem in the city. This is something that really, I can tell you how many times I've walked down there and I've seen a mattress or I've seen a couch, and I'm going like, what is this,
Yeah, I know.
And so what happens is, and we tried this with the Resaca at PUB, is we took educational tours of kids to go through the zoo and talk about, hey, if you pick up the kids and tell them you don't want your mommy and daddy throwing things outside, and so that's pretty effective. But I still haven't found an answer. I see Santana over there because I know he and I talk about it, and we see it all the time. It's a matter of pride. You want to do something about this, but again, I was a little bit nebulous about what this means to authorize the use of plastic bag fee funds.
So I can answer, let me answer your question, sir. I do agree the current municipal court is Class C violations. But the camera system is able to, if we need to take this to a higher level, we can, and that's a gap where we have not been able to go. So essentially, we've been weak with our ability to take a case to court because we don't have all the elements that are needed of a crime or of a violation that has occurred. And in big cases, unless someone leaves their business card that they dumped there, it's really hard for us to prosecute it. Now, I do agree about the sidewalk part. We were not aware so many other individuals wanted to also consider this, and I'm really open-minded about bringing everyone to the table now that we are aware. That was not something, we were really looking at this from that perspective, trying to correct the blight. But if there's other options on the table, we definitely are open to looking at them with legal's approval, because there is a certain paragraph in the ordinance for plastic bag funding that needs to be met. And then within those projects, we meet that criteria. Absolutely, we want to be part of that solution.
And it goes to, like, let's say you're going to place a camera in an alley. I mean, that camera gives you a big angle of vision, so you might be able to get the sidewalk and the alley. So it could conform to the ordinance, but you could also get some safety on that street. So, and then all tied into like one really nice system at the police department for the officers that are patrolling downtown. So that's kind of the, I don't know if that's even possible, but with technology these days, I'm pretty sure that we can find something that works for everything.
That is, and one walkaway or takeaway that I got when we were looking at what cameras can do today is the cameras we currently have that were from Academy were like 60-degree angle. From when we sat down and looked at everything, 180 degrees is a whole basically field of vision and HD. So for us, that was a good step forward. And I think that's what some of the other organizations are looking at. So I think we need to present what are we chasing afterwards with these cameras and what do we want to do. And from then we got to come back and set that dialogue so we can come back to commission and see at what price points we're willing to do. Tonight, what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to lock this funding in place so that it doesn't get lost to another project. That's all I'm trying to do.
It would have to come to the commission anyway, but I have a question on any restrictions there are on the funds now that supposedly that AG case was settled. So is the case actually settled? Is it non-suited? Is it dismissed, or the judgment entered? Or? The case is settled. So there was a settlement agreement?
Yeah, there was a settlement agreement, and the agreement included the fact that we could continue to use the funds that are left for the purposes stated in the ordinance, but we can't continue to garner.
Okay, we can't take more funds.
Correct.
But we can use
But we can
what
use
was
what we
there,
have.
and we
Right.
have to be restricted by the original intent of the environmental.
That's correct. Environmental programs, cleanup, and
And
recycling initiatives.
Do we even know how much is in there? How much is there, Pete?
Right now, we have $521,068.
Okay.
Well-
You know, it seems to me like we would consider an action to allow you to take a look at what it is and bring us back proposals before. I would think that we would have to authorize something specific, you know, but we can, you know, I mean, and what you're telling me is you're trying to make sure, sort of like putting a little lien on those.
You want to earmark those funds for dumping?
Yes, sir.
But how much of the funds?
Well, when I went out and looked at the cost citywide and I asked other cities, my asking was 200,000, but that's negotiable. That's not a fixed point.
But that's not
really-
just for cameras, right? 200?
No, that's really to be able to go back and set some performance measures so that we can reduce and show year over year that this kind of activity is dropping. And it's not even to spend that amount within a year. It's really to start setting a strategic vision, short-term, medium, and long-term goals.
I think it's worth the investment because so often we have people calling in and saying, hey, there's stuff on my property. And what the city does is we go out and we ticket them. And that's not right and it's not fair. And so I think it's important that we invest in surveillance to actually start catching people who, they're serial dumpers. One day it's your yard and the next day it's the corner. And I mean, people are ruthless and they need to be caught, they need to be fined. And they need
Commissioner
to be
Detroit, it is a very narrow path we walked in. Not only are we given a citation to a property owner for something they did not commit.
Right, it's wrong.
It's hard to catch them.
And it's hard to catch.
hard.
It's something really hard to catch. But we're really just trying to also send a message that
Right.
if you are a serial dumper, those days are numbered.
Yeah. Well,
I
I think
support that
that
completely.
the action to authorize the use of plastic bag fee funds, you know, that's just a general motion, and I'll entertain a motion to approve. But I would tell you, Art, that you're going to have to come back with a specific proposal and a
Yes, sir.
specific amount.
And for up to 200,000? That's what he's requesting.
Yeah, well, you can do it that way.
Okay, well, I'll make that motion.
Okay?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Motion carries, Art. Keep up the good work. Thank
Motion
you.
to adjourn?
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.